Right, let's bring in the president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Samuel Agbeluyi, who is in Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. Well, listening to that report there, it looks like the lawmakers, especially in the Green Chamber, are excited and satisfied with the amendments to the this tax laws. But what do you make of it? Are you impressed? I want to believe you have looked at, the amendments by the House of Reps and what they have come up with. For example, the House proposed that the basis of VAT taxation will now be consumption rather than where the returns are filed. Does this address the concerns of those who, before now felt that this particular aspect, will be disadvantageous to them?
Well, thank you for having me. The position in the bill that was submitted actually talk about the place of consumption. So the fact is that the House of Rep has just kept that particular section of the bill to make sure that where consumptions take place is where is the state that will get the benefit of VAT rather than the headquarter effect that we have before now.
Yeah, but Mr. Agbeluyi, I mean, the proposal was for 60% on consumption to, improve productivity and competitiveness among states. But with what was passed, would you say it actually promotes competition, and does it also promote productivity among the states?
Well, it's neither here nor there. It depends on how you look at it. It's not exactly an economic decision. It has the social and the political angle. We need stability in the country, and we need everybody to grow together. No state wins when others are not winning. So, having said that, we also need to imbibe the spirit of competition. But if you say 50% of what is gotten will be based on equality, then there's a kind of an attempt to carry everybody along rather than introduce a competition. So that's the way we see it.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's look at other aspects of this bill that's awaiting third reading. The deletion of 5% excise duty, removal of inheritance tax, and more importantly, the exemption of military personnel, from, tax due to the critical nature of their assignments, especially when you consider the strength of the Nigerian military is somewhere around 230, 250,000. What do you make of this particular aspect?
Well, I think it's a very good development. That is the way we should go. We should hold our military officers, soldiers and men in high esteem, and it shows that we appreciate what they stand for and how they have kept this country together. It is not easy for a young man to sign his life that anytime he can die for the country. These people have decided to pay the supreme price for us, and so not collecting taxes from them will not make Nigeria poor. Rather, it will motivate them and it will show them that Nigeria appreciate what they are doing for the country. That is good for us, and it leaves more money in their hand, and at the end of the day, it also has its economic implication. Once the citizens, this time around the military men, once they have more money, then they will be able to consume more. Once they consume more, production will increase. So I think it's a win-win situation for the country, and the House of Rep, members of the House of Rep should be commended for this step that they have taken.
Very well said. We do commend them for the sacrifice to the nation as well. But let's talk about one of the most contentious aspects of this bill. VAT, beg your pardon, gradual VAT increase to 15% by 2030. Now, that was scrapped to maintain a 7.5%. What are your thoughts? Was this a missed opportunity for a country seeking increased revenue?
Well, sadly, a missed opportunity, but again, for whatever the government is not getting, the taxpayer, the consumers are getting. So it's a zero-sum game. And how do I mean? The government is going to get lesser revenue in terms of what they get from VAT, while the individual will spend less in terms of the cost of purchase, because the consumers are the one paying VAT. So it means that more money will be in their hand, and like I explained, the military that will be accepted from paying taxes, more money in the hand of the individual as the direct benefit for the economy. Many people, you have the opportunity to buy more, and if you listen to Manufacturers Association of Nigeria from time to time, they tell us the high cost of stock that they have in their warehouses is because people are not buying. But with more money in the hand of individuals, they will be able to buy more, and once they buy, there will be production. So it's a cycle. So Nigeria also still stands to benefit, but of course there will be less money for infrastructural development, which is also needed. Basically, a decision of which is the better option of the two, and the House of Rep has decided on behalf of the taxpayers this time around.
I'd like to get your thoughts too on this 30% company income tax and the taxation of free trade zones. How will it impact on the economy? Because free trade zones are supposed to be unencumbered, by taxes and what have you, unless, of course, I don't have a clear understanding of it. But taxation of free trade zones.
Well, let me start by with the issue of company income tax at 30%. That is still very high. If you look at practices across the world, we will, in CIT, we will prefer a reduction to 27.5% as presented originally in the P, and possibly in another 2 years or thereabout, reduced to 25%. That will make Nigeria competitive. Taxation is an issue, it's an economic instrument, and we must look at what it does to the economy beyond revenue collection. So once you make our tax rate competitive, investors outside the country will come and they will invest. And of course, when there's investment, there's employment. When there's employment, the economy is stimulated. So there are a lot of benefits when you have competitive company income tax rate. That we believe we should focus on. On the other side of the free trade zone, a lot of things are being abused in the country. So it is not a surprise to us that that proposal is being made, because there are certain services that, of course, their products are not going outside the country. So for what benefit are you getting the exemption? If you are not exporting in order, because once you produce and you export, you strengthen the naira. It's a whole lot of convergence that we need to focus on to strengthen the naira. So you are not exporting, you are still selling in the local market, and you want to get the benefit of companies selling outside the country. You are shortchanging Nigeria. That is that's a reality. And of course, those who are not in the exporting processes soon, you're also taking unnecessary advantage. So we can say you are not. There is no level playing field for everybody. So this has been looked into before that proposal. It's a reality where people get licensed or get some benefit to do one thing or the other, and in the course of their actions, they are deviating for what they promised to do. So it is the reality before us.
Talking about shortchanging Nigeria, there's a recommendation to limit the president's powers to grant tax exemptions without Parliament giving approval. What are your thoughts? Is this a step towards transparency, or do you think that politicians in Nigeria will just find a way around it? Also, we know your institute has been given greater responsibility of oversight in accrediting tax agents. What does this mean in practice?
Well, talking about allowing or extending the approval process to the National Assembly, I tell you, it's neither here nor there. because if the executive was doing this and you have elongated it, that means you are increasing the bureaucracy. We don't need improved bureaucracy in the country. That must be taken. That is the way we see it. In addition to that, we cannot be too sure that cost of getting the exemption will not increase because we are increasing the bureaucracy. Before you know it, there may be one or two things that will go on. So rather, we want everybody to pay attention to the presidency's approval of the executive approval of the incentive. Once we do this, of course, it could be mandated that the companies getting this exemption are listed, and the information is out there for people to know whether it is right or not. Before the final approval, it could be said that, okay, it must be publicized within 6 months for members of the public to make their input. We will rather prefer that than elongating the bureaucracy of the approval, because definitely the cost of getting it for the genuine investors that will require that exemption or the incentive, the cost of getting it will definitely go up. And the last thing we require for any investor in this system is to increase the cost of doing anything. If it is not necessary, don't bring it on board, so that Nigeria economy can thrive, and at the end of the day, the benefit will be for everybody across the board.
Very well said. Thank you so much for joining us. President, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN, Samuel Agbeluyi, joining us on Newsnight tonight.